This is my honest review of everything Town Hall 18, from the new defense to the new troop and spell. But before I talk about the upgrade of the Town Hall itself, let's start with the build-up to Town Hall 18. Essentially, since October, they have been building into the narrative of the Town Hall upgrade itself. That's where we first started seeing the cosmic vibe. We had the media staff for the minion prince. It's where we first started hearing about the media. We then had the Meteor Golem Troop, and that continued building all of the way towards the community event, trying to build the media catcher, get enough upgrades, and then the Town Hall ultimately getting destroyed. I do like that they tried to add a lot more story into this Town Hall upgrade, a bit of lore behind it. At times that felt very subtle, but on the same token, they can't lean into it too much that for a casual player, they feel like they're missing something and it throws off their gaming experience. But I will say, back with the 5th Clashiversary, I loved when the builder packed up and left the village. We had the barbarian, the witch, the giant being the builder for the retrospective weeks. There was so much discussion in the community and chatter about what was going on, so I love that we've seen a little bit more of that leading up to Town Hall 18. I guess the only thing is when it came to the community event right at the end, where we were trying to do a set amount of upgrades to build the media catcher. My assumption here is that they kind of ran out of time when implementing that, because they are trying to do a lot of new things, which is good, but I don't really understand why the rewards had to expire. And even if they wanted them to expire, for whatever reason, well then there should have been a clear timer on those different rewards. I know it was written right at the bottom, claim the rewards within 72 hours of them being unlocked, but like, you don't know when that reward unlocked. If you log in on a particular day, maybe that reward was unlocked 12 hours ago, or I don't know, people that don't log in every day would have missed out on a lot of those rewards. So I think even if, for whatever reason, they wanted the rewards to expire, I'm not sure I understand that logic, but then there should have been a clear timer on the UI so that people didn't miss out. I also don't quite understand where it fit into the narrative, to be honest, unless I just missed something, and if I did, that's completely on me. But I don't understand how we built the media catcher and then it was just nowhere. Like, I thought they set the numbers whereby it was going to be impossible for us to do that, so that we didn't build it and the town hall got destroyed. So I don't know, that bit just felt a little bit weird, but either way, building story back into the game, I love it. It helps get people connected into the game a little bit more, like make you feel a bit more attached to what's going on, in that you want to upgrade your town hall. But then moving to the actual town hall upgrade, I mean, it was pretty sick. First time we've had a cutscene. I will say I don't love those within games. I feel like a lot of time I just want to skip out of it. At least this one was very brief. It did build into the narrative well, and then they did such a good job of making it look epic when you upgraded your town hall. Like, as that meteor hit and everything was blown up, they really did a good job of that to, again, make it feel special. Upgrading your town hall doesn't happen very often. Make it feel good. They did a brilliant job on that. Also making sure that the theme wasn't just randomly picked. It actually built into that story. So I have to say, I would love to see that moving through future town halls as well. And obviously just learning from any experiences they've had from this town hall implementation. I used a book straight away on my town hall, so I'm not sure if this is the case or not, but at least within the developer build, the rock didn't appear to change over the course of the upgrade. I would love for that to be the case. I know that at the end, you hit the rock and it revealed the town hall itself, but maybe across the upgrade span, it actually visually changed. Like, the builder was carving the rock into the new town hall and you got to see it visually upgrade alongside the town hall. Nevertheless though, let's move along to the town hall itself, and I guess we should start with the Guardians. I'll be honest, I do like the concept here. It should switch up the meta. which is a big positive. We heard from Stuart in the past that they want to try and shake up the meta in between Town Halls. We didn't really see that as much from Town Hall 16 to 17, but with the Town Hall now no longer a defense, and the Guardians acting so differently to any of the weapons we've seen previously, hopefully that will be the case. I do like that there's not tons of Guardian levels. You just go from 1 to 5 on each of them. 2 equally doesn't feel overwhelming, so I think they had a nice balance of how many they launched with. But due to how they drastically switched things between Town Hall 17 and 18, it certainly gets you wondering as to what would happen with Town Hall 19. Because we merged the Eagle to get to Town Hall 17. Yes, we had the Inferno artillery weapon, but now there's no resemblance of that within the Guardians. So it does feel like we lost the Eagle artillery. It's a requirement to get to Town Hall 17, so, you know, it's just part of that gameplay progression. I don't think they needed to include it within the Guardians. This is the next step to get to Town Hall 18. But essentially, since we have 2 Guardians and a bunch of level upgrades, what happens? I hope that these don't become some sort of next temporary content whereby that progress is lost going to Town Hall 19. Like, do you need both of the Guardians level 5 to get to Town Hall 19? Do you just need one of them level 5? Since there's 2 options, it really just opens up a lot of questions. I don't know what the answer to that is, but all I am saying is that I hope that progression is carried forward to Town Hall 19. Whether that's new Guardians, maybe those Guardians evolve as you upgrade them at Town Hall 19, maybe you get a new Guardian, I don't know, but I just hope that that progress is not lost, like we seen with the Eagle. That does bring up an interesting point that I've seen a lot of people discuss, in that of the Eagle Artillery achievement, because they made it whereby when you destroyed a Town Hall 17, you could still get that achievement, but now seemingly you cannot. I've heard different discussions. A really good suggestion I seen that was provided to the Clash of Clans team was actually just merging a bunch of achievements together in that of the Expo, the Inferno, and the Eagle. They would absolutely have to make sure that the gem reward you get from those achievements would be equal so that people didn't miss out, but then it would still be achievable to get that singular achievement because you could continue taking out Expos or Infernos. Whilst we're on the topic of the Eagle, actually, it was nearly a year ago when I interviewed Ferry when we found out that we would be receiving an Eagle Artillery decoration from merging the Eagle with the Town Hall. 6 months after that, we found out they've made the decorations, they need to just choose which one it is. In a recent interview now, Marco has suggested we need to figure out how are we going to give the decoration. Is it in an event, or maybe when you merge the Eagle, you get given the decoration? Yes! Is that not the obvious way to provide the decoration? Like, why is it taking this long? It's honestly laughable at this point. It's not that deep. Make a decision and deploy it. I understand where initially they wanted to make sure it didn't look like a defense. That should still be the case, but now they have the hide decorations toggle. It's not that big of an issue, but these should just be obvious choices now. Also, maybe they need to build something into the game whereby you do then get a decoration once you get to that next town hall. Previously, we were given sceneries, so I'm not a game developer, but I'd like to think it's easy enough to do. But I do appreciate this is low on the priority list when it comes to updates. But just stop messing around with these decisions. Like, if you're going to say something to the community, then just make the decision and do it. That aside, though, let's stick to more of the new content and my thoughts on it. So, going back to the Guardians, I do think the long shot is the better option, mainly because of how the Town Hall is now not a defense. You can have it isolated in the center of the base. Root Riders wouldn't try and path to it and open up the walls, and the long shot can just be picking off troops from a distance. Whilst the Smasher Guardian has more hit points, and you've got to say the abilities of the Smasher are better, raging up and dealing 60% more damage when the Town Hall's destroyed, or leaving that rage spell, is arguably more powerful than the long shot just acting like the Giga Bomb at the end, but it's more the interactions of them. I feel the long shot gives you more options. If your town hall is surrounded by other buildings or defenses, maybe the Smasher would be best. Because the one thing I find interesting, and we'll have to see how the meta develops, but I do think there'll be more 1-stars in this. Because let's say previously you got your Archer Queen to the Town Hall. She would lock onto the Town Hall, and in taking down the defense, she's also taking down the Town Hall. The hit points of the Town Hall and the defense were just one thing. Now if she gets to the Town Hall, starts firing at it, the Guardian engages, she will switch target to the Guardian. Not only does she have to take down more hit points in that of the Guardian, she's also now not taking down the Town Hall. So she has to take down the Guardian to then switch to the Town Hall, which equally has a lot of hit points. And if there's other defenses in the area, it is going to be tricky. There is one thing that I don't really like about the Guardians, and that is that they have some special rules, but equally that those are not clear within the UI. For example, a poison spell not working on the Guardians. I am sure there is specific balancing logic behind that. The poison spell must have been just too overpowering against them. But as a player, I would expect the poison spell to work against them. Whether you want to class them as heroes, poison spell works against heroes to slow them down, or since you use a Book of Fighting to upgrade them, let's class them as troops, or like super troops, whatever. A poison spell would work on them. So as an attacker, I would instinctively drop a poison spell on one of these thinking it would work. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. You could say within the UI, because they've came from Cosmic Rock, they are immune to poison spells, but then why does the poison lizard work against them? This is like when we used to have things in the game, like the healing spell not working through Inferno Towers, the Tesla dealing double damage versus P.E.K.K.A. They removed those strange mechanics from the game because they were purely there as like balancing aspects, but they just made the game more confusing because not everyone knew. I remember when Darian first joined the Clash of Clans team, I interviewed him, which was amazing. I had so few subscribers at the time. The fact that he took the time to discuss things on my channel. But I asked him about the Inferno Tower, and he said they look at the data, the amount of people that use healing spells on top of the Inferno Towers, just assuming they work, that's why they reverted it. And to me, as a player, I would have expected the poison spell to work. I'm not saying that if they needed to do this for balancing, then they shouldn't have, but it should be clear in the UI. People shouldn't have to find out these weird mechanics for themselves. Or equally, I know that's what I break down in my videos, but players shouldn't have to go to YouTube or do specific friendly challenge testing to figure out those mechanics that, in my view, sometimes go against logic. So to me, I would have expected the poison spell to work, but if they are going to have mechanics like that, please explain it in the UI or the description so that players know how things are going to work with the different units. I talked about this with Seth in my interviews with the Clash of Clans team, celebrating 100,000 subscribers here on the second channel. But I think they should have an advanced description tab where literally every single thing about a unit, how it operates, the range that it has, any interactions, everything should be listed there. Yes, have the basic description for more casual players, but if I want to delve deeper and learn everything about a unit, I should be able to do that from within the game. So I don't love those mechanics that feel like they're cherry-picked to balance them, especially when it's not clear to the players. Obviously, my honest review videos of updates release fairly soon after an update, so it's not quite long enough to see how the meta develops, how the base designs develop. But again, I guess the thing I'm most happy about is that it should switch up the gameplay, make people try some different attack strategy options as well. Because as much as I talked about this prior to the update, when I talked about what I wanted to see from Town Hall 18, it is good to have variety in attacks. It is good to make sure that you can switch things up. But strategies you used to use shouldn't just be rug pulled and then no longer work, because there's always that transition period of learning a new attack strategy where you're just not very good at it at first and you're not going to have good success. So sometimes in war attacks, you need to just default back to what it is that you are good at. And being able to do that as you're learning a new strategy is a good thing. But trying to implement changes that do change the meta is good. And I feel like we have that with some of the other implementations as well, such as the Revenge Tower. Now, it is a little bit strange, having just talked about how the Eagle Artillery was lost and the Revenge Tower. It doesn't work exactly the same, but it's similar in the sense that if you take it down early, it doesn't deal as much damage or no damage at all. So you do want to factor that into your planning. And as a base builder, it gives you more options. However, I think that's the key here. The Revenge Tower does give you more options as a base builder. And I think this is something that when it comes to the Eagle Artillery is hard to understand unless you really did build bases. I remember at the 2024 World Championships, after Synchronic had won, I was talking to General X about the bases that he had built, and specifically the Eagle Artillery. And he literally said it is the worst defense. And in most of the bases, if you look, he had it next to the Town Hall, not because it was a good defense to protect the Town Hall, but just because he had nowhere else to put it, and he was using it as like a HP meat shield for the Town Hall. Mainly because whilst it could help, it was just very random as to whether you actually got damage from it or not. I don't think that's the case with the Revenge Tower. Clearly, when troops get near to it, it's not going to fire into the air and then come back down and maybe miss the target. Like, it is just blasting those troops straight away. So as a base builder, you can be a lot more assured that the Revenge Tower will give you that value. So that's where I think even if the mechanic is somewhat similar to the Eagle Artillery, it's definitely a better defense, and one that, again, shakes up the gameplay a little bit, because for Town Hall 17, we never had to consider that as a defense. Now, when you're planning your attacks, are you going into the Revenge Tower early on to try and get it down before it deals damage? Because on the back end, once it's charged up, it's going to deal a lot of damage to your troops. And then equally, is that area trapped because the base builders know that you're trying to get in towards the Revenge Tower early? So it just adds an interesting dynamic, and I think that's the best thing about that defense. Again, it'll take a little while before we see how impactful that actually is. Equally, I feel the Super Wizard Tower was a good choice. I will say that whilst I do like the aesthetics of Town Hall 18, that cosmic vibe, the blue glow, there are a couple of things that I think look a little bit weird. The Super Wizard Tower, I'm kind of on the fence with. It looks cool. Sometimes you look at it, and other times I think it just looks strange. The air defense, I've got to say, I don't really like. Generally, a lot of the others I think are good. I would agree, I think the walls could do with being a little bit more improved, but sometimes it's hard to tell until you get all of the walls around the base upgraded. However, back to the Super Wizard Tower specifically, I do think that was a good choice of merging. We can be assured that in the future, more defenses will get merged, kind of the purpose of merging, to make way for more defenses to come in, more signature defenses, so some of the old ones will be kind of merged out. We were getting to a stage, and we're kind of still there, granted, where there's just so much splash around the base that certain things, like bats, just don't work. So the Wizard Towers, whilst you don't have as much splash coverage, because you're merging some of them, the Super Wizard Tower arguably gives you more impactful splash, because the chain of it is really critical. And if you come at it at the wrong angle as well, it can chain two healers, which is a bit of a nightmare when it comes to Warden charges, but it does feel like a merged defense, much like the Ricochet Cannon and the Multi-Archer Tower were big improvements over the regular defense. And the Super Wizard Tower makes sense since we already have the Super Wizard. The regular Wizard Tower just had the regular Wizard on the top. so it was kind of an easy one for them to select. There's a lot of people that say we should merge the mortars. I'm not saying in the future that's not the case, but equally they do have to be very careful that we don't merge away all of the less powerful defenses. If every single defense is just this heavy-hitting powerhouse, then it just is going to make things really difficult as an attacker. You need some areas where it's a bit weaker and you can take advantage of that, but equally, those weaker defenses give you different options as well, whether that be defensive pathing, trying to push the royal champion in a certain direction so she can't get into the base. Equally, you can do that with balloons or hog riders. But the mortar equally is one of those things that outranges a flame flinger, and the flame flinger is, if you can set it up, the most powerful siege in the game. So the mortar does have a lot of other advantages right now. That's why I am happy that they merged the Super Wizard Tower. But talking about the Flame Flinger specifically, this is where the mortar might be more critical now, because the brand new Totem Spell means you can set up that Flame Flinger a bit easier. Prior to Town Hall 18, you could easily snipe mortars on the outside of the base, but then to get to expos, people would turn defenses invisible, send 4 rocket loons in just to get the expo and set up a flame flinger. Now you can literally just use one totem spell right in front of the flame flinger, and it is good. You can set it up perfectly. That is just one use case of the totem spell as well. Plus, it's very flexible, much like the freeze or the invisibility spell. Should you not need it early on in the attack, you can use it as part of your warden charge to redistract. Maybe your main push is moving through the base. I actually use it a lot with my warden charge into hero dive. As I'm pushing my king and queen into the base, I'll use them quite early on to make sure that I can preserve my king and queen abilities for the heart of the base. Plus, it's just exciting when the new stuff added is powerful and is actually something that you want to use. Now, I know there's a lot of people getting carried away with the totem spell as well. Again, it is something that it's too early to say whether it is too strong or not. You can quite easily take too much damage with it if you don't place it correctly, but when you do, you certainly do get a lot of power with it. And those mass totem spell attacks, it's the same as every town hall. Initially, when a town hall is released, people max offense. You have the power boost. You're attacking weaker Town Hall 17s. Essentially, all of the supercharges are gone. The crafted defenses are gone. In the initial couple of weeks, a fresh Town Hall 18 is kind of the same as what we had at max Town Hall 17, so it will take a little while before we can tell how difficult the meta actually is. Now, from the initial testing of me and other creators, I do think that Town Hall 18 is more difficult than Town Hall 17. There just feels like there's a lot more damage around the base with the new levels. The way that the Town Hall is not a defense means that, as I was mentioning, it's so much more difficult to actually get in and take that down. But aside from that, I don't want to start drifting back across to the meta. What I'm saying is that with the Totem Spell, it's good that it's powerful, but it is still a bit too early to find out how powerful it is. Right now, you're not absorbing as much damage as you could when people catch up with those upgrades, and arguably as the year develops, because that's always an interesting topic I find, is that when a Town Hall first releases, anything that got a new level, let's use the Totem Spell as an example, it's only going to get weaker for the rest of this Town Hall, because the Totem Spell is not going to get a new level, but all of the other defenses around the base throughout the year will be getting more levels, therefore lowering the effectiveness of the Totem Spell. So that is something they have to be careful of when it comes to the balance. Obviously, Supercell have all of the numbers. They can look at the use rate, the hit rate, and they should act on it if it is way too powerful. However, you do always have to bear that in mind. If they nerf something, will it actually become unusable as the Town Hall advances? Usually what happens is the bases catch up, the Town Hall becomes harder, but then equally new strategies are developed, people become better at attacking at Town Hall 18, and it kind of balances itself out as well. but just things to think about. My final thoughts on the spell then before we go to the troop. I really like it. I like that it's casual friendly. You don't have to worry about missing a free spell. You've got guaranteed value with it, if you will. But equally, there is the skill involved at using it as well. If you're more skillful, you can definitely get better value with it. It opens up different possibilities as well. That stun effect initially is brilliant. So anything that I think can be used by the masses allows the more skillful players to get a lot more out of it, and equally is exciting and can change up strategies, then that's always going to be a good thing from me. So I do really like the Totem Spell. Moving to the Meteor Golem. I do see what they were doing here in terms of building into that narrative, and then now the Meteor Golem is trapped within the Clash of Clans world, so that's how it has become the permanent troop. It's never as exciting when something is not brand new, but also I think it would have been a lot better had the Meteor Golem have been powerful when it was temporarily a troop. And I feel like they did what they had to do at the time. So the ranked update, they clearly wanted to have it where event troops were not in ranked. But because that didn't make the cut and they were in ranked, they had to balance the Meteor Golem where it really wasn't that powerful. No one was really excited about it. Whereas if they could have made it really powerful, and it was like the Lava Loon, for example, then people would have been way more hyped when it was then released as a permanent troop. Nevertheless, though, it is now a lot more powerful than what it was. And I feel like this is where, I mean, even me in the initial testing, I didn't necessarily give it the dedication that I probably should have, because with a town hall there's always so much that you're trying to wrap your head around, every single intricacy of mechanics, so that I can share that with you in sneak peek videos. So there is a lot of testing to then recording and then post-production of videos that there's just a lot that goes into the sneak peek videos. But I probably should have put a little bit more time into testing the Meteor Golems, because during my initial testing it was much like the Halloween troop, where it just didn't seem as effective. I just didn't try different openers for them, where now we are starting to see that they are powerful. Their hit points are boosted massively compared to what we've seen in the Halloween event. So I feel like they will catch on. It obviously just takes the community that little bit longer because they were released, especially in their initial form, not very good. I do like the Meteor Golem. It is a different concept, but it's not necessarily as exciting to me personally as the Totem Spell, where I feel it actually unlocks different possibilities, because the Meteor Golem, even if it is strong and we are going to use it, it kind of just replaces other Smash strategies. So I'm not saying that I dislike the Meteor Golem. I think it is a good addition. I think it might have been more exciting if it was either a new troop or it was powerful during the Halloween event, and personally I'm not as excited about it because it doesn't unlock new possibilities. I mentioned the ranked part of things there though. I am glad that they were able to implement the no event troops in ranked and wars, in fact. And also, actually, they made some other adjustments as well. The scrambling of attacks so that it's not as easy to identify who it is you're going to attack, because players had figured that out. Time will tell whether that's actually effective, but clearly that's a good change. Let's see how the League Decay change works as well, but it's good that it's more clear in the UI. I'm sure they will continue to look at things, but also they made some other little changes, whether it be the League badge popping in, which I guess makes things fair when it comes to people that have legendary sceneries. Even though you could tap out of it, it essentially means that now it doesn't matter. I don't have a strong preference about it either way. It looks cool at first, but then, you know, I'd rather just have that extra second of scout time, but whatever. It keeps things fair for people. 1 second is not realistically going to have that big of an impact in your attacks, and it looks cooler than just the clouds, I guess. The Revenge having its own dedicated end screen, again, stuff like that, I think are nice. It just adds to the gameplay experience for different people. The news tab takes that brief second to load now, but I'll let them off because it looks so much better than what we had before. So again, just modernizing, revamping the game so that it looks better in different areas. But on top of everything else, probably one of my favorite parts of this update was the bugs. Or shall we say lack of them. Yes, there was one or two. With the Totem Spell, messed up like one or two tiny little interactions, the base links, but like that's all patched now. There was no bugs. Or I say no, but compared to previous updates, you've got to give the team a pat on the back for that, because I feel like the last couple of updates, the end of my review videos have always been this bug and that bug, and they need to improve their testing, and I still think clearly they need to be looking at that to make sure that they can replicate what they did here with Town Hall 18. But bravo, it means the update is not overshadowed with game-breaking bugs and going in and out of maintenance. Obviously, I'm not going to drop on about it too much, but I was just personally happy that there wasn't that many bugs, because I was expecting there to be a fair few. Just going down my list, though, because I just bullet pointed the different topics to make sure I covered everything, and I think Supercharges. I guess that's the only thing I haven't talked on. It's obviously not that big of a deal. Going into Town Hall 18, I felt like they should not bring Supercharges with a Town Hall. I feel like it's too overwhelming. I think it worked really well when it came to Town Hall 16. Yes, Town Hall 16, where the Supercharges came at the end of the year. That's because they were only released at that time. But I felt it gave them some options, because you had more content to upgrade when you needed it, because you'd caught up on all of the regular upgrades. They could almost tweak the balance without having to do specific balance changing, because if the dragons were too powerful, well then just give the air defense with the supercharge a bit of a bigger boost. Vice versa with other things. So there was advantages to having it like that. But I do appreciate why Supercharges come with a Town Hall, because it means that since it is temporary content, you get the maximum value out of that. It does mean, like I was saying, you have more to upgrade with a Town Hall. Maybe that's overwhelming, but it also means that players that do invest money into the game get a much bigger acceleration than those who don't. And they certainly need to balance it across updates. That's always going to be the case. They're never going to remove that. But the more content they have in one sitting, the bigger that gap is. Whereas if they can minimize that, spread the content across the year, and the Supercharges come later on, then that's not as big of a deal either. There are other advantages to the Supercharges coming out with the Town Hall as well, though, because every single upgrade is so expensive. Versus if you just want something that is cheaper to upgrade, well then you have the Supercharges as well to keep your builders working. They don't cost as many resources, so they're easy to chip through. But equally, we do have the crafting station now, which we weren't sure whether it was going to launch with Town Hall 18 or not. Obviously, now we know that it does, and I think that more people will, if they do need a cheaper upgrade, use the crafting station to keep a builder working and just go with those lower resources than the Supercharges. But on top of everything else, I hope they can actually see data from the Town Hall 16, how it looked there, releasing them with Town Hall 17 and seeing what happened, what did the actual data tell them, and now arguably with Town Hall 18 as well, so that they can change that if they wish. So going into it, I was much of the opinion that I wouldn't like to see Supercharges with the Town Hall. I think there's still more positives to that than releasing them with the Town Hall, but I certainly see the benefit of releasing them with the Town Hall. I can respect that side of things, and I just hope they look at the data to actually make informed decisions with that. When it comes to everything overall, though, obviously you've been able to gauge throughout this video, but I think it's a really good Town Hall release overall. There was a lot of better aspects coming into this Town Hall than previous ones, whether that be the story behind it, a lot of the thought that I feel they've put into not just building that story, but making sure the theme of the Town Hall, the actual additions tie into that, and that also these changes can hopefully have that bigger impact from Town Hall to keep the gameplay fresh for the players. These are just my thoughts. I like to keep my honest review videos very casual. That's why I literally just bullet point the new stuff and then go from the top of my head what I think. I don't want to start like rating updates per se, because I just like to keep these relatively relaxed. But I do think this was a really good Town Hall release. That's just my thoughts. You can let me know yours in the comments, because people play the game for different reasons, and whenever there is new content, clearly there's going to be subjective opinions as to whether you like it or don't. Let's see how the lifespan of Town Hall 18 pans out though, but I think initially I am certainly optimistic as to how good this one can be. I will actually place on your screen my interview with Seth, one of the game designers for Clash of Clans, where we talked about updates and exactly what we could expect moving into next year of Clash of Clans and the future. That was part of my 100,000 subscriber interview series I mentioned earlier. I'm sure you'll find that one interesting, and enjoy the rest of your day.